So first I want to thank everybody for coming. I kind of assumed this would be one of the most highly attended events we do here because we all need to know how to take care of our piano, right? Some of us have shiny pianos, some of us have satin pianos, some of us have wood pianos, and we just need to know how to care for them. Bob Banker came into my life a couple years ago, and he's excellent at what he does. He's super funny, very experienced, and I don't know, whenever I need anything, I'm like, I'll just call Bob, and he takes care of it, and I can always rely on that. So I asked him if he would mind coming here and sharing some of his experience, some of his jokes, I don't know, some of his teachings for you to better care for your piano. There you go. So, without further ado, my friend Bob Banker.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know how Justin did this. Did you put something in your newsletter or something?
I did.
Must have been good. I hope I don't disappoint you. My name's Bob Banker, and I don't know what was in the newsletter, but I've been finishing furniture and pianos since the early 60s, and which is way too long. But I learned the trade from my uncle, who was in the furniture finishing business in the 50s, and I worked there in high school and learned how to do color work and lacquer work, all of that sort of thing. And then I opened my own shop in Walnut Creek in the mid-60s, and I had a piano. There was a piano store that opened in Walnut Creek, and they opened a warehouse right next to my finishing shop. And at that time, my specialty was furniture, color matching, special effects, that sort of thing. And the store owner came into my shop and he said, would you touch up some pianos? And I said, yeah, I'll do anything, you know. So I went over and I started working on pianos. And we started, in those days, we did a lot of refinishing work, where we would strip it down to the bare wood and completely refinish it. The insides would be completely rebuilt with new strings, and action would be rebuilt, and they would sell pianos. And at that time, in the 60s, labor costs were considerably less than they are today, and it was viable to do it. There was a profit margin when they sold the instrument. Today, because of labor costs, material costs, and everything else, the only thing we do are the high-end pianos, the low-end, and because the market's changed. There's a lot of pianos that are made in other countries that are imported, that are actually less expensive than the cost of rebuilding a piano. So it's changed the market. So what I kept on in the business. I was in Walnut Creek for about 15 years, and in 1980 I got an opportunity to move up into the motherlode country, and we moved up there. I do all the finishing up there, but I'm down in the Bay Area 2 or 3 times a week. And this week, I came down here on Thursday to rub out a high-gloss polyester finish into a satin rub. And I did that on Thursday. I finished up yesterday, and I'm still having a hard time focusing. It takes a lot of concentration. But I really appreciate all of you coming out, and I want to answer all the questions I can, but I think we'll start with the preliminary thing of determining what kind of piano you have and how you can take care of the finish. And I know that, Justin, you've had some presentations from tuners on how they probably talked about location and where to put your piano so it's out of the sun and the sunlight. Keep it, if you can, in an interior wall rather than an exterior wall, and all those sorts of things, which affects the sound of the piano. It also affects the finish of the piano, because if you've got a black piano that's in the sunlight, it's going to get hot, and it's going to affect the finish. But for you to take care of your piano, first of all, you've got to determine what kind of finish you have. If you have an older piano, it's probably, I would say if you go back 30 to 40 years, you'll probably have a lacquer or a varnish finish. But the latest thing that's come out, and it started in the 50s, is a polyester finish. Polyester, particularly on high gloss pianos, polyester is ideal for production work because it's a catalyzed finish that cures in 48 hours, and when it's polished, it doesn't change. And what I'm talking about is this, this kind of a finish, the high gloss polyester finish. It was developed in I'm sorry, I'm going to turn this off. That's the one problem with this thing. The polyester finish was developed in Germany in the 50s. And it's an entirely different ballgame from the lacquer and varnish finish. It's treated differently, it reacts differently. So you've got basically those two types of finishes that we're going to be dealing with. Steinway, the satin rubbed Steinway, which this is probably made within the last year, is lacquer. They continue to use lacquer. They use polyester on their imports. I don't believe, now I've never been to the Steinway factory, but I don't believe they do polyester in.
They don't do the work.
No, it's all lacquer. One of the problems with polyester is that you have to completely retool your factory, and it's got to be done in a robotic sealed environment, the spray work and the application, because the material is poisonous. It's deadly. So in order to retool for polyester, it costs millions of dollars for a factory to redo that. And Steinway has been doing pianos since, 1850s?
Yeah.
And they're nice. They're great pianos. Why change it? And they're still doing them with lacquer. I mean, it's so cool. And I'm just curious with the group, how many of you have a Steinway? Okay, and how many of you have a Boston or an Essex? Okay, so you've got a polyester. Is it high gloss? Okay. This, mainly I'm going to demonstrate on the satin ebony, how to take care of that. Steinway does do a glossy lacquer finish, but it doesn't look like the plastic polyester. Polyester is actually a plastic material. It's polished, but it's got more life to it as far as the wood. It conforms to the surface of the wood, and it's not as perfect. So it looks more, I don't know what the word is I could use. It looks more natural, I guess. It's glossy, and what you would want to do if you have a high gloss lacquer is treat it like you would the high gloss polyester, because you can easily scratch the high gloss finish. And
what finish do they use on the natural wood finish? That lacquer also?
In most cases, if a factory is tooled up to do polyester, they'll do it on everything. They'll do it on natural wood, they'll do it with ebony, with white, whatever. And if they want to do a satin, polyester is much harder than lacquer. So if they want to do a satin rub finish, they will sometimes coat it with lacquer over the polyester and then rub that out, because it's easier to rub out than polyester.
Steinway uses what on the?
They use lacquer.
On
yeah.
the natural wood too.
On natural wood too. Now in Germany, we've got a German Steinway here, that Hamburg Steinway, and it's actually, they're tooled up for polyester, and this is actually a polyester finish that is the base. And then it's sprayed with a conversion varnish, which is similar to a lacquer. It's a little bit more durable, and it's a sprayed finish. So this is a completely different animal from the satin lacquer that you see here and here. It's totally different. It's a much harder finish. The care of this is totally different from what you would do with this. That's good.
Does that help?
It's good to have lights.
You can see.
Anyhow, before I begin, it's important that you, if you're going to look at your piano and figure out what it is and maybe even polish it, it's important, if you have glasses, to clean your glasses, because these are full of dust. How many people here are not sure what kind of finish they have on their piano? What?
It isn't, I know it isn't that. It's not the high gloss.
It's not the high gloss.
No, it's more of a satin finish.
Is it, what brand of a piano is it?
Steinway, of course.
It's a Steinway, and it's satin. How old is it?
I'd say 5 years old.
5 years old.
Yeah.
It's 5 years old. And it's just, it's satin. Is it natural finish, or is it?
It's a wood finish.
Oh, okay, so it's lacquer.
It's rosewood.
Yeah, if it was made in New York.
But
Yeah.
on the wood finish Steinways, they rub down the lacquer a little bit, so it's not quite as shiny as.
Is it glossy though?
It's their satin luster, so, well, that's what they call it.
Okay, so it's satin.
Yeah.
Yeah. What, I'm going to demonstrate on this. This is satin rubbed ebony. And the way, the material that's on there is gloss lacquer, gloss black lacquer. And the way they get the satin is to rub it out. So this piano has been rubbed out. This piano is done with this one. This is polyester resin that's sprayed on there, and it's what they only have to put about 4 coats on this, and that gives it an 1/8 of an inch build. And then they block it out, they wet sand it down, they start with like 220 grit, and they go all the way up to about 2,000 grit. And in between the sandings, they cross sand it, so they take the scratches that are going this way out with going this way. And they get it down to 2,000, and then they machine polish it. And they've got 4 different grits of polish that they use with the machine. And that's how they make these things.